Thank you very much. So this is our sixth session, and what I wanted to talk about is communication. When you're a leader, one of the greatest things that you need to have, one of the greatest assets and ability is to communicate. And we've tackled this is what exceptional leaders tell their employees. It fits very nicely with the coaching session that we've just had, because the power of your words are immense. That is why our Bible says, choose life or death. And it's what you say that brings life to a lot of people that work with you, work for you, and your team. So this session is very easy for me because it just says, what are the things that exceptional leaders normally say? Now again, let's just anchor it in the Word of God in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. Look at the Word of God says, let your speech always be with grace. Just underline the word grace. So whatever you say must be with grace. And all of us know that grace is so important in our lives. We are here because of grace. But it goes on, it says, seasoned with salt. So in other words, it must taste well. Are you with me? That you may know that you ought to answer each one. But underline grace. Grace. Because when you are a leader, the power of your words is unbelievable. And therefore, leaders always start with their communication in a positive way. And these are the phases that they normally use. Number one, I have confidence in you. Wow. If somebody walks to you and says, Mamkhadebe, I've got confidence in you, that lifts you up. That really makes you feel strong. That touches the inner being in you. It resonates with you. So I'm just going to give you these phrases so that you can use them. After speaking for the last 5 sessions, I just want you to continuously get them as part of your vocabulary. To say them when you walk in. If you're teaching kids, say exactly, I've got confidence in you. Because total belief in somebody actually kinetize, if I use the physics word, kinetize their energy. You see, we've got, in physics, we say there's inertia and kinetic energy. Inertia is energy that is there, that is actually not kinetized, and it does not move out. It does not change things, but it is there, it's stored in a battery. There's energy in a battery, but unless you put a plug in and you release that energy, it gets kinetized. So a lot of people have lots of energy inside them, and it needs your power of your word. Say, I've got confidence in you. And once you just say it, it's unbelievable what it does. So I'm just going to give you these words. And the second thing they normally say clearly, this I want us to accomplish. We speak in royal we. This is what I want us to accomplish. So in other words, you set very clear plans, very clear goals, clear timelines, clear deadlines, and say, this is what I want us to accomplish. And it's amazing when there's a clarity of the roadmap where we're going, people can actually go faster, longer, and be able to achieve what we need to achieve. Where there is confusion, there's no clarity of goals, there's no clarity of roles, there's no clarity of what we need to accomplish. People go on and just do as they like. And as a team, it's very important that you've got a very clear goals and communicate them. So one of the greatest things that you need to do as a leader is to be a great communicator. Write it down because that's very important. A great communicator. Sometimes you You do not tire to communicate. You have to repeat, particularly the vision and the mission. You've got to repeat it all the time when you're dealing with your workers or your employees or your staff or your team members or whoever you're working, whether it's a community. You have to continuously remind people the vision and never tire to do that. In fact, that's the single most important part of your job as a leader, is to point out the vision, cast it, and remind people, and then ask the question, what do we need to do? The next question that always you need to ask, what can we do better next time? So once we've achieved something, what can we do better next time? We've got two values in our company. One of them is excellence in what we do. The subsection of that value is continuous improvement. Whenever you've achieved something, ask a question, how can I do it better? Never sit on your laurels and say, I have achieved this. That's why Jim Collins says, good is the enemy of great. How can you do it better? Challenge your workers, your employees. Once you are as good as what happened yesterday. If you achieved any victory, celebrate it. But immediately after that says, how can you do it better? Because I promise you competition is going to catch up with you. Ask BlackBerry. Remember? There was a time where BlackBerry was dominating. Even President Obama was using BlackBerry. Where is it now? Huh? It stopped improving. And iPhone just came bang. And how is the iPhone improving every day? The first time it was just a phone. What do you do now? You can bank with it. What else can you do with it? Everything virtually. I was so surprised the other day. For me, I was born before technology, so I also grew in a house where there was no electricity for some time. So it's still a miracle that even when I press and then there's light, and then let there be light and electricity. But all of a sudden, Theo, who's an IT, organized for me that, when I open my gate now, I don't need a remote, And when I press it, and I press home gate, ding. If gate level. Now I can open a gate with my iPhone. What else can we do with it? So there are people who are smart and they're asking the question all the time, how can we do this better? And that's what I want to instill in you in order for us, this continent, to continuously grow and become. Remember I said to you, the dispensation of Africa is coming. And the dispensation of Africa will come in your lifetime. I have no doubt about that. And it will happen if all of us adopt the continuous improvement value. In our personal life, we instill it in our children. We instill it in our next generation. That will continuously improve so that nobody gets complacent. In whatever field of endeavor you are involved. Whether you're teaching, you can teach the class today and then say, how can I teach it better tomorrow? If you're in a medical field, how can I do it better tomorrow? If you're in IT, how can I do it better tomorrow? If you're in communications, how can I communicate better tomorrow? If you're in engineering, how can I do it better tomorrow? Whatever field of endeavor you are, if you're in agriculture, I've produced a great harvest this year. How can I have a better harvest? If you're producing potatoes of this size, how can I make it better to produce this size potato? That is what leadership is about, to improve this world. When God says you are here, have dominion on this world, He meant you need to improve it. Continue the creation that He has started. That's why we're made in His image. Because we have creative ability to continue to improve and making all the time. Better and better. So the next one, the question you ask is, I want to play on your strength. Now, there's nothing that is as devastating as getting somebody, if it is soccer, a guy who is good in the right corner, you put him on the left corner. Most of the people, in fact, this is what has happened in our nation, unfortunately, and I've seen it all the time, is that we put a wrong person in a wrong role. They say square person in a rectangular hole. Or a round person in a square. You can't do that. It's actually evil if as a leader you're putting people not on their strength. John Maxwell explained it very nicely. He says, don't spend your time developing your weaknesses. Spend your time developing your strength. Because if your weaknesses are level 3, no matter how hard you can try to improve it, you probably will improve it to level 4. Who pays for a level 4 performance? But if your strength is already 6 and you improve it to 8, somebody's going to pay for what you do. So your job as a leader is to say to a person, how can I play on your strength? So what does it mean? It means you must make sure you assess all your people and take them through. There's a lot of assessment programs that are in place. Batteries, personality tests, strength tests. You must make sure you find all of them. Some of them are psychological tests. Make sure your leadership, as a leader, you have made sure you've given your people an opportunity to go through some kind of assessment of their strengths and ability and their weaknesses. And then have a conversation with them and says, according to the report that I have, these are your strengths. How can we work on your strength? How can we change your role to move into your strength? In that way, you will make people to perform on their strength. It's so critical that we do that. The next question is a very simple one. What is your opinion? A friend of mine jokingly says, some of the leaders, they come to you and says, what is your opinion? But let me give you your opinion. Are you with me? You can't go on like that. You have to value people's opinion. Have you been in a meeting? Let me tell you sometime now. Stop raising your hand in a meeting. Just jump in and speak. I promise you. Our nature is very modest, when the topic is on the table, uphakamisa isandla in a feeble way, and the chairman just ignores you, And then another guy jump in, another guy actually propose you a suggestion. Hey, say, suggestion. Now it's already there on the table, and you're still busy, raising your hand, and the guy runs with credit of your suggestion. So even if when you build on it, maybe you even had a better idea, it's gone. And another problem is that I've been in meetings. By the time the chairman pointed you, the agenda item that they were speaking about, it's gone. That agenda item. Are you with me? And then when you say, please man, don't take us back. We've already passed that agenda item. So it's important you as a leader to create an environment where if there's a dominant person in a meeting, you want to make sure says, sorry. Let me hear your opinion. Let me hear your opinion. And the richness of any decision is based on the quality of the opinions that are there. Trust me, the quality of your decision depends on the quality of the input of other people. There's no single person who's got monopoly of wisdom in this earth. If you're a leader, what you need to know is your job is to get as many suggestions and ideas on the table and pray that God gives you an ability then to cut through the chase of all those ideas and then land on one. And then good consensus on it. And thereafter, no further consensus and debate and meetings, implementation. Are you with me? So it's so critical that you get opinions of other people, seek advice, and demonstrate that you have got faith. And when somebody is giving an opinion, acknowledge. You see, if Keith has made an opinion now, a good one, we need to say, hey, Keith, that was a great idea. You've really given a good idea. Do you all agree? Yeah. Sharp. When you've given somebody credit that he's giving a great idea, you're encouraging him next time to give more ideas. But if you shut him down, he's not going to give you. Or if you don't recognize that person, he's not going to give ideas again. So that's what great leaders do. You think they are smart? You think they're achieving so many things? It's because they're able to harness and harvest ideas of other people. That's the strength of a leader. Harvesting and harnessing the ideas of other people and put them into a plan of action and execute. The next question is very simple. How can I better support you? Now, let me give you one thing. Monday morning, when you've got people reporting to you and you're leading them, before you start the meeting, don't start with an agenda. Do what we call check-in. How many of you know that? Few. In other means, you just sit down for the first 5 to 10 minutes and say, let's check in. It's Monday. So and so, Mrs. Mda, how was your weekend? How are you feeling now? Are you present here? You'll find that you're starting the meeting, she's not present here. Why? Because the child is sick at home. So when you start the meeting and she hasn't checked in, she's outside the meeting. Physically, she's in a meeting. But psychologically, she's not there. But if you ask her to check in, she brings and says, wow, you know what, my child this morning was sick and I'm worried and concerned about it. By taking it out, she comes back into this meeting and all of us say, oh, we're sorry about that. Can we help? And then she says, no, Babum Dawi has taken the child to the hospital. By saying that, she's back into the meeting. Are you with me? And then at the break time, we check in with her and says, how is it? And she says, no, the child, you know children now. Sometimes it's us parents who are sick, You run to the hospital. By the time you run to the doctor's room, the child is already playing and the doctor asks, who is sick? And then she comes back and she says, no, Babum Dawi, take her to the hospital and she's fine. But by checking in, you've allowed her to bring herself into the meeting. Are you with me? You could be talking in a meeting, the person's not in a meeting because you didn't acknowledge you. You see, that's the word, that's why our greeting is called Sawubona in Zulu. Means I recognize you. And that recognition is critical. How can I support you? How can I better support you? Take time to check in and understand what is frustrating other people. Maybe it's a little frustration. Little frustration. In the workplace. And something very small. Maybe a coffee machine didn't work in the morning. And everybody come in the meeting and didn't have coffee. And some of the people need coffee to start working, And they're stressed. You didn't ask the question. You just started the meeting. But if he says, let's check in, and someone says, you know what, the coffee machine is not working, and I'm stressed now, he says, oh, okay, let's make a plan. Critical to check in. Check in. So, if there's any exercise I want you to do is that when you walk in to your team tomorrow, on Monday or Tuesday, and says, guys, I've learned something. I was out in 10 campus out there in a great day. You know what? Let's have a check-in. How are you feeling? You will be surprised. But limit it. Just some, it shouldn't take the whole meeting, but at least 10, 15 minutes. Start earlier. Another question that great leaders ask is, let me know if you have got any questions. Let me know when you've got any questions. Now I can stand here. We're limited because we're producing this thing online. But I should pause many times and say, let me have questions. Let's take questions. But I hope you're debating them outside. Never assume people understand everything. Because if you do, there's questions of clarification. Start by saying that. I'm giving you practical tips now. In a meeting after you've presented or you've discussed, say there's two types of questions. Let's start with the question of clarification. Is there anybody who didn't understand very well? And you deal with questions of clarification. You'll be surprised that when you clarify things, people won't resist them. But if you don't give people an opportunity to ask questions of clarification, you'll meet resistance and you don't understand why people are resisting this idea. It's because they just didn't understand, or there's just one little thing that is bothering them about this. Or maybe they see a risk before you implement. And by asking that question, it may even help you to understand that there's a risk inherent in this decision. And you learn something. Let the people know and feel that they have an open door to raise problems with you. Now, the biggest mistake that we do as leaders, we kill messengers. So a person coming to tell you bad news, which you need to know, he'll blow your top. And people get to know very quickly that you don't give bad news to them. So what do? They give you good news all the time. And they fabricate good news. And they'll give you fake news. And you think everything is going well. Until it boomerangs. Bang! And it blows in your face. And you ask people, why? And they won't even tell you the answer. But quietly they'll say, oh, if we tell him, he's going to kill the messenger. The last one is be generous with compliment. Good work. I told you in the last session, these are the questions of the coach. Say, good work. Good work. Somebody has produced a report that is fantastic. I remember it did such a great thing for me when I joined Shell for the first time in 1989. I was a young man, and it was this big organization, and I wrote the first report that I wrote. And I wrote it, and I wasn't too sure how good it is, because this is a big global multinational company. And my boss read it, and my office and his doors were so close. I heard him screaming, he says, this is great. And he stood up out of his office and came to my office running. And he said, did you write this? I said, yes. He said, that's a great report. Wow, that inspired me. And the head office was in Cape Town. My business case to build the first service station, the same thing happened. I put in a whole case of building a service station in Sakane. And I wrote it with all my mind. I used everything. And it landed in Cape Town, where the head office is. And the lady, I remember, he read that report, and he picked up the phone specifically and said, who's Maurice? I was based here in Joburg. And they put him through, and he says, just phoning you to tell you that this business case you have submitted is fantastic. You know what it did to me? As a young man entering a big global organization, it just unleashed me. So tell somebody when they... If your compliment is very specific, it makes sense. And ever since then, I just flourished within that organization. 2 people made a difference. My immediate boss and somebody in Cape Town at head office took time to take a phone call and phone. For a young man who was obscure, who didn't even be known, who just joined the organization. I'm urging you to go and do that to many, many, many people. What are you telling your employees? What are you telling your team members? Are you telling them they're stupid? Are you telling them they do not know what they're doing? Are you telling them that they're useless? Or are you telling them that they can do better? And you're there to support them. And if they've done a great job, do you give them a positive feedback? And if they haven't done a good job, you give them a developmental feedback. And all of us have got that responsibility. And I charge you to go and do that. Thank you very much.